Now that we know that Momoshiki is going to make an appearance, something that we've all wanted to see for a while now, the real question that we must all ask ourselves is, why did Boruto give Momoshiki control over his body? And in the first place, is this something that Boruto has done intentionally? Because the answer to this question reveals a lot about what is going to happen in the future and what should be our expectations of whether everything that is going on will ultimately lead towards a brighter future, or are we finally taking the steps to lead towards the future that we saw in the first chapter of the Boruto series. So in today's video, we'll be discussing multiple different theories, and I want you guys to let me know in the comment section below which one of these theories is the most likely to take place. But the first thing we really have to discuss to really be able to understand the predicament we're in is the fact of Boruto's deal, the deal that Boruto had with Momoshiki. We all know about Boruto's situation previously, the fact that Boruto couldn't use the karma. The reason that was the case is because Momoshiki was stopping him from using the karma. Momoshiki simply wanted to die after Boruto essentially took the W from Momoshiki and did not despair. Due to that being the case, Momoshiki knew that he would never be able to take full control of Boruto's body, because Boruto would simply be able to regain control through his sheer will, which is something that completely caught Momoshiki off guard. So all that Momoshiki wanted to do is finally rest in peace. So whenever Boruto would use the karma, he would feel as if he was dying, which is a reflection of the state that Momoshiki wanted to be in. So Boruto, in order to defeat Jiraiya, he needed the powers of Momoshiki, and thus he made this deal with Momoshiki that would allow him to use the karma. But is that really what Boruto wanted? Did Boruto simply want to use the karma and all of Momoshiki's powers, or did Boruto want Momoshiki himself to defeat Jiraiya? Because these are two different possibilities. They may seem similar, but it entails two different things. And this is really the context that I want us to view the situation that is going on. We can view it off Boruto's initial plan being to use Momoshiki's abilities, finally be able to tap into the karma. We know that the karma gives an exponential boost in power, and we've already seen Boruto use the karma. Now he was able to tap into the Byakugan, and we've had multiple different confirmations of secret hidden abilities that Momoshiki has that Boruto should now be able to tap into. It was already revealed that he should be able to tap onto the amplification of abilities based off the chakra he absorbs using the karma. This is an ability that has already been confirmed. However, there is a difference from letting Momoshiki take over than using the karma simply. So let's go on with the first route. The option of Boruto wanting Momoshiki to be in control and be the person to take Jiraiya down. Now this would make quite a bit of sense. As some of you guys may know due to my previous video, one of the core beliefs that I have as my massive prediction is that Boruto would tap into the karma and its space-time ninjutsu in order to locate where Sarada is. This is an ability that multiple Otsukis have used in the past, and something that Boruto should be able to do. We've seen all the Otsukis like Boroshiki and Momoshiki. They use space-time ninjutsu in order to even locate this planet in the first place, and then they appeared. So Boruto should be able to tap onto the same powers and then locate where Sarada is. Now with the option of Boruto simply going with the fact of Momoshiki taking control, it would make quite a bit of sense why we do end up seeing Momoshiki in that battle, where we see Momoshiki take control of Boruto's body because Boruto is simply giving Momoshiki the reins. Momoshiki is going to fight Jiraiya, defeat Jiraiya so that he can gain his freedom. So why not make him work, the person who can maybe even tap and use Boruto's powers to a higher degree due to his own personal knowledge. We've seen the difference when Momoshiki takes over Boruto's body compared to Boruto himself. Maybe now in the time skip it could be a little bit different, but just with a simple inference that we have in the code arc, we could definitely argue that Momoshiki using Boruto's body might be stronger than Boruto himself. So due to that simple fact being true, there is a higher likelihood of Boruto being able to defeat Jiraiya if he simply ends up giving his body to Momoshiki, which is why we see Momoshiki take over, and it seems like Jiraiya is there and he's going to be fighting versus Jiraiya. So this would make quite a bit of sense. We could also potentially see a Kawaki that also ends up joining into this battle, which is why we see Kawaki with his horns in that future scene, because Kawaki went alongside Boruto to go and help Sarada out, as Sarada is technically fighting versus Code, Hidari, and Jira. If Kawaki is to join too, we have all of these different players that are involved. We will at least have Jira versus Kawaki and Boruto. This would be something that would be a little bit more fair, while Sarada deals with Hidari, and potentially Code ends up joining the Jira side, where we have all 4 of them fighting against each other. Since Code right now, Code is a bum, he's a loser, it wouldn't be too much help for Jira. So this is a path that would make sense, and us seeing Boroshiki wouldn't be something that we have to fight over. Now, the next path is the path that is a little bit darker, and if this is the case, which is highly probable, I do believe that we have a lot to worry about. If Boruto's plan was to simply be able to use the karma and all of its powers, true essence karma, and Momoshiki is never supposed to actually take over Boruto's body before Boruto ends up defeating Jira, which is then that Momoshiki can take over Boruto's body permanently. If that was the idea that Boruto was going with, then it simply means that the fact that we see Boroshiki means that somewhere either Momoshiki was able to take control of Boruto's body, or something happened that caused Boruto to despair. And I think all of this is pretty much interlinked. We know that the only times that Momoshiki can really force himself into Boruto, force himself where he is taking control of Boruto's body. That's what I mean. But in those specific instances, it's only when Boruto is going through some mental battles. We saw this with the Shikadai example, when Momoshiki, after Boruto went through omnipotence and his mind was in disarray, Momoshiki could slowly start to take over Boruto's body. Or if Boruto ends up taking an injury, we saw that when Boruto had a heart attack, Momoshiki was able to take over. So these are the 2 ways in which Momoshiki can take over and wreak havoc. And that would ultimately mean that Boruto is either injured or Boruto seeing some harm happen to somebody that he cares about. Let's say, for example, something happens to Sarada, which has been a question that multiple people have asked me because it kind of seems like a genuine possibility. We do know that the future is dark, but we also do know that Sarada has the dream of being Hokage, and everything is going towards that sense. Personally speaking, I don't think Sarada can die, but it is an actual possibility due to the simple fact of the way things are going. So I don't think Sarada's actually going to die, but I feel like something bad is going to happen to Sarada that could potentially cause Boruto to go with some level of psychological damage, where he almost relinquishes the control to Momoshiki and lets him do his thing. And it's not just Sarada, it's the fact that we also see a Himawari who is there. We do see claw grimes are in the village. There's just multiple different reasons why we could see a future where Boruto could potentially give up, where it was his plan that ultimately led towards Sarada being captured, and we also have something negative that is happening to Himawari. Those are the 2 circumstances in which I could see Boruto potentially give up, where he either finally makes his way towards Sarada, and Sarada ends up either being speared by Chidori, almost like a Kakashi and Obito type situation, where Obito walked into Kakashi spearing Rin. That could be something that's interesting. I don't think Sarada would die, but Boruto might go berserk and Momoshiki might take over. Or something happens to Himawari. We do know that there were claw grimes in the panel that we ended up seeing. So those are my real thoughts, but I'm really curious as to what exactly you guys think. And that's why I posted a community post, and I was quite happy with some of the responses that you guys had, because it really leaned onto the 2 categories that I personally saw. And the first comment I want to start by is by KC Smooth. And he says, maybe Boruto recovers Sarada's earring, and Momoshiki tells him that he can trace her to whatever dimension she is in, but he needs full control. Perhaps Sumire helps with this process too. Because we do end up seeing that Sumire is involved. We do see her in one of those futures as she is looking at something on the computer, but this is something that would make quite a bit of sense because Sarada's earrings are made out of metal, and metal is something in which we know that Boruto can track the chakra that is in metal, which is why he puts his chakra into metallic objects. Sarada, being aware of this, especially with the pins that Boruto gave her and the explanation that Boruto gave her, if Sarada potentially ends up putting some of her chakra into the earrings, it could make it easier for Boruto to recognize what exactly is going on. Where in this case, it wouldn't be Boruto's chakra himself, it would potentially be Sarada's chakra. She takes out one of her earrings, pours some chakra into it, hopefully it's metallic where it's conductive, and then throws it away, and Boruto, noticing maybe a disturbance in chakra, he is able to locate it exactly. That is the first possibility that I genuinely think could be an option. It's either the karma or really this possibility that I think could genuinely take place. The next comment is by Boruto Manga. He says Boroshiki appears at the most inconvenient times, meaning Boruto thinks Momoshiki knows a way to reach Sarada, while Jura is in the village chilling with Shikamaru, which means Boroshiki has to battle Jura, delaying Sarada's rescue. Kawaki and Boroshiki will work together based off the future episode where Boruto uses karma and Kawaki has no problem with it. This is definitely true because in the future we do know that what surprises Kawaki is not the fact that Boruto is using the karma, is the fact that Boruto has the Jogan. So I think that is definitely a possibility that we have to talk about. The fact that Kawaki will eventually see Boruto using the karma without any sort of problems. But also the fact that we do see Jura in the village, it kind of makes the first theory that I was discussing a little less probable due to the simple fact that if Boruto is fighting versus Jura, why is Jura in the village? It just makes it super hard to predict what actually takes place. And we do know that there are multiple different timelines. This doesn't necessarily mean that this is the timeline that we're going to go into, but I feel like it's hard to be 100% sure on what exactly is going to happen, but these theories really just show the possibilities of what would take place. But Momoshiki, when it comes to taking over Boruto's body, we all do know and have to come to say that Momoshiki usually takes over his body in moments where it's just the wrong way. It just ruins everything that Boruto was working towards. We saw that in the Code arc. We saw that in the Ishiki arc, and we also saw that during the Omnipotence arc. So it is something that we definitely have to wait and see what happens, but it's a very intriguing, all these various theories that are being proposed. And the last theory that I want to discuss is something that is very intriguing to me. And this is a conversation by ANOSU and Bakura Ryo. This is what they end up saying. It's either to fight Jura after him and Kawaki gets cooked, or Sarada dies and he loses composure. And this is something that I could definitely see make sense, because we do know that the condition for Boroshiki technically coming out is the fact that Jura has to be dealt with. If the fight occurs, we will definitely see Boroshiki versus Kawaki. But if that isn't the case, Sarada dying and Boruto losing composure is definitely also possible. And I also like the input that Bakura ends up adding here. He says, I don't think Sarada is going to die. However, it was stated by the creator that the story was loosely based off the Matrix. Boruto is kind of like the chosen one, referring to Neo, and he states that Sarada was based off Trinity in the Matrix. And Trinity ended up sacrificing herself, and this inspired the chosen one. So it will be interesting to see if they actually pull the trigger on her. But personally, I don't think they'll go that far. Maybe put her in danger or something, but I don't actually think they will permanently kill her. And I do share a similar opinion. I don't think they will permanently kill Sarada. And it is also true that there is some level of inspiration that Ikimoto gathered off of the Matrix. I don't necessarily know if characters were directly based off various characters in the Matrix, but we do know that Ikimoto has said in previous interviews that the Matrix inspired a lot of the themes of Boruto, and we do see it with love. Love is a theme of the Matrix and a theme that is also vastly explored here, and this would be a very intriguing way to come to figure that out, because Neo only comes to truly figure out his love for Trinity after he ends up seeing her die and sacrifice herself for him. And we've already seen in Boruto so far that Sarada has really come to accept her feelings towards Boruto. But Boruto, we haven't really seen Boruto have that inner dialogue where he comes to figure out the love that he may have for Sarada. So if this is the way that we see that, with Sarada potentially being harmed, potentially Sarada being turned into a Senju and devoured by Hidari, all those various things could allow Boruto to finally come to understand the love that he may have for Sarada. And this is why this arc that we're currently seeing right now is absolutely going to be a game changer. And as we build up towards the fight between Sarada versus Hidari, we have to fully understand the themes that this fight will focus on. And to understand that, you have to watch this video right here.